interesting sessions before this. I'm very excited to be here today. It's a great honor to be among all of you and the distinguished panel. We are going to talk about a very important topic today, and that is career breaks. Especially in the context of women, I think it is one of the primary reasons why we are talking about gender pay gap, right? While there are many fundamental issues to be addressed, I think there's a lot that can be done at a company level as well. But before we start, right, I would like to kind of include the audience into the conversation, right? And we want it to be as interactive as possible. Can you just raise your hands if you had to ever take a career break because of whatever reason it might be, right? Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah,
that's a significant number. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My second question to them is, if you had to take a career break, did you find it difficult to get back into your careers? Can we have a show of hands if that was the case? Okay.
It's almost as many.
Yeah? There's almost as many, that's correct. Okay. So let's have some questions. We will also like to hear your stories in the panel. The entire fight for right to work for women started in the 1800s, right? We are in 2023 today, and we recently published a report which said that women make up 29% of the tech workforce, which is almost 1 in 3, right? My first question is, why are we still having this discussion today? Why are we still? Vasudha, if you want to probably start.
Sure. I think I can definitely speak from my own personal experience. I think I'm with the audience. In my career, I took about 3 breaks, spanning total 6 years. And each time it was hard to come back. And when I introspect why, in fact, initially, I think a lot of women don't even realize that there is a bias in the system, right? So for me, it was about, I was in a very, very demanding job in a startup, which was primarily a very work hard, party hard culture. And I was doing great, right? I was doing really, really good, and I was really enjoying the journey. But what happened was mostly people came into work only at 11 a.m., worked till 11 p.m. And my kids were 1.5 and 4 at that time. Unfortunately, women, definitely the biological clock and the career clock are directly in conflict with each other, right?
Yeah.
At the exact growth phase of my career, you have so many of these responsibilities at home. When I introspected, I think it was just, there were weeks where I would probably see my kids for 15 minutes in a day in the morning before going to school. And by the time I came back home, they were fast asleep. And that was when my first break happened. When I just looked back, I realized I was not happy, and I definitely didn't want to miss the entire childhood, right, with my kids. And I took my first break. And this continued, honestly, for the first maybe 10 years of my older one's life. And at that point, each time I came back, it was the support system, right, of my mother, of my husband, of my probably the maids. And I really thought that I had the most supportive family. What is this biases? There is, what are people talking about? And I was honestly on my own journey then. I didn't even understand it, right? Today when I look back, I don't think it ever crossed our mind with my husband in an equally demanding job that break, maybe one of them should have been taken by him, right? I think that's the institutional bias, right? The mental conditioning. Where I don't think even the society or him or even me were ready for that option, right? So probably my heart goes out to the men who probably want to take a break, be a stay-at-home dad, but can't. So I would say it's that maybe the days are behind us of very, very macro bias where it's visibly shown to you. Hopefully there's less of that, but there is still a lot of these micro behaviors and this overall mental conditioning, right? And where we are not even realizing there is a bias. So probably why are we asking this question today in 2023? I think it's because of that, and that takes time.
Yeah.
So
Radhika, I think you had a stat around this topic, right?
Yes, I had a stat around that. I was just looking at some of the stats on the Global Gender Gap Index. When I looked at the 2022 results, we are at 135th place amongst the 146 countries that were participated in that. So that is the reason.
So only 11 countries are worse off than us.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So there is a lot of work to be done. I think it just goes back, if I dissect and look at, what do we need to do? There are several segments, societies. Then the home. Societies is a bigger, and the societies, I mean, it includes the government policies, it includes a lot of social organizations who are working towards making women empowered, and also the home, where we start our journey, every day, how we treat our children, how we treat our brothers, sisters, having that bias in mind, like just now Vasudha just mentioned, it doesn't occur to us at that point in time, but there are so many things. Corporate comes much later, but how we treat, how this journey happens over the course, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And that needs to change right from there. The fundamental mental shift has to happen in the society, at homes. Of course, corporates are doing a lot. There are several corporates doing many programs back to work, bringing women back to work. There's so many different names that we have for these back to work programs. And even to that extent that corporates have gone and started training programs to bring women back to work. So you bring them, you train them for 6 months and then bring them. I've been at SAP, I was leading diversity and inclusion program, and we had several women leaders within the tech space itself. And they would say, hey, I don't want to become a manager, I don't want to become a people manager, because that involves a lot of responsibility. You're as good as your people, right? When it comes to leading people. So women are apprehensive in getting into the people leader roles because of the fact that it requires enough time and energy for them to invest. So these are some of the things I think we need to reflect on ourselves, where and how can we change, each one of us in this room. I know this room is full of energy. Everybody, I've been seeing since morning, I've been sitting in the front, there's so much of energy in this room. How can we convert this energy? How can we utilize this energy? How can we, I was talking to Vasudha and Harini as well, we were just chatting before. Each one of us can look at how we can contribute to the rural segment. See, we're all privileged to be here today. We're all, in whichever space that we are in, we are really privileged to be here. Look back at so many women who don't have an opportunity to even come to a stage where we are today, and give back to the society, just talk to them. In my previous stint, when I left SAP, I took a sabbatical to work with rural women, entrepreneurs. They are struggling to build something, give something, do something. And then I've also worked with Agri segment, an incubator. So we picked young engineers who could work on innovative agri technology space. I worked with the incubator in Agriculture University, and then there were several problems that these engineers were trying to solve for the farmers. So there's so much that can be done, and we all should feel responsible to go back and do little bit from our own side, so it can be a huge win for everybody.
Yeah, I think then it's fair to say that this question needs addressing, and this is a topic to have this thing. Another thing that we observed when we did the Women in Tech report is that between 5 years to 10 years of experience, the representation of women drops by almost 10%. So 1 in 10 women drop out.
Right.
And that's a huge percentage, right? Considering that. But before I throw the question, right, I just wanted to ask the audience, did any one of you had to drop out, you would like to tell your story to us between the experience of 5 to 10, and if you would like to tell us your story as to why, and even then you did not want to quit, but what happened with you? Anybody would like to, tell their story in this?
Yes.
I think there is.
Top candidate in school, colleges, the bright child, the first bencher, proud girl of my father, and really didn't have time. As soon as I finished my college, I got into corporate sector. They immediately took me in, and it was a fantastic career. I didn't realize I went countries. I think I did a lot of work in the first 5-6 years, after which I got married. And then 3 years after that, I wanted to go the family way, but really did not get the support that I expected. And absolutely, my parents were in a different state. We are in Bangalore. So I didn't want to really use the third party, that is crutches or whatever, to really support for my kids. So I really had to drop out of the career path. So like somebody rightly said, the career and the biological clock is so conflicting, and it's so frustrating also at times. So, and then I was very clear, I want 2 kids, okay? So I was very clear at the start. So immediately after the first one, my first appointment with the doctor, though it might just sound very crazy, I said, how soon can I plan my second one? Okay? Because I really wanted to get done with this whole thing and then join back, because I don't yeah, it might just sound as crazy, but that's what it is. So I really wanted to get through. I don't want to really go back and coming, because it's really stressful to get back.
But I just want to point out,
Sure.
why are we so apologetic about the choices we make?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Given a choice,
You
I will
know,
do this
because we
again.
come into it saying,
I'm not.
but I wanted this, with almost a thing of,
No.
why are we apologetic about what we
If
want?
given a chance, I'm going to repeat it again.
Exactly,
My choice.
right? And to own
Absolutely.
it. and to not feel sorry either
I'm
for
not
yourself.
sorry.
Yeah.
Nowhere. Because I told this to my husband that I want to be there with my kids at that stage. Because my mom couldn't be. She was a working woman all her life, and that's her greatest regret. She always said, I did not really, I missed you guys so much, because she had to support the family, where I could afford not to. So my husband supported there. I said, I want to take a break. Okay, when I'm done with all of this, I want to enjoy this, then I will go back. And he said, your wish, whatever you want to do. So after, I think 1 kid, then the second kid, then I was so involved in the whole process of, making them the best people. You want to be the best mom, you want your kids to be the best there. I don't know how 10, 12 years passed by, okay? And when they had their own routines and when they started going back to schools, I said, this is the time I'll come back. And HP, I am from HP, and HP is a great company for women, I'm telling you. It's one of the best companies you want to. So I had started with HP, they welcomed me with same warm hands, and I'm right there, starting back again and rocking, telling you. Thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Priya.
Priya, you said you'll tell your story. I feel like you told my story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's safe to say
Yeah,
that.
I think your story will resonate with many of the women in the room.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say this anecdote is representative of so many. That's why we are seeing this
Yeah.
stat, right?
I just have one thing to say, because I've been in this, right? I've seen a lot of my friends dropping out between exactly the experience of 5 to 10 years. See, this is what I tell them, right? Either you have 2 choices, right? One choice is you have a very good support system around you where you can make a decision around, I have 2 lives to live, right? One is my work and one is my personal. If you don't have that support system, just be happy to take a break, because it's going to be overkilling, because I've been there. But I am super happy to see you. I'm going to tell my friends that you've come back, right? Because upskilling is not easy. And being ready with the technology changes that's happening today and getting back to work. Although, as Radhika said, lots of corporate initiatives are there. There is so much apprehension within women to come back to work, to take that next leap of faith and trust in yourself. And don't shy away from walking away if that role is not fitting you anymore, right? So really, I have to applaud you for what you told me today.
Thank you. And when I came back also, it is a scary journey, okay? You're coming back to the corporate world, you know everything, yet you are away from it for so long.
Exactly.
Simple thing as going on calls on Zoom was scary initially. I don't know what to touch, which button to use and all that. But I wanted to do those mistakes. I wanted to learn. And then I'm happy where I am. Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. That's a good approach to have. She's ready to make mistakes and come back as well. But at the same time, that might not be the case with everyone, right? They feel so. Shreya, I understand that maybe at a fundamental level and changing the culture might take time. Shouldn't, but it is. What can companies do to avoid this drop in the first place, right? So, is there any kind of this thing, or in terms of not stopping this career, or even shared responsibilities? How do you address this?
So fundamentally, when you look at the way the dynamic is, is crafted, it's a vastly male dynamic. Workplaces are very male-oriented. Of course, there are women's toilets, but how about the mindsets? How about the mechanics around the workplace? How about the boardroom? How about timings? How about networking? How about smoke breaks? Let's look at where men have these cohorts of networking spaces in areas that they create for themselves. And women are often excluded just like that, right? It's going to take 129 years for us to reach equality. 129 years. So our children are not going to see it.
Okay.
Okay? So let's be honest and let's call it out for what it is. It is a man's world, and the women are accommodated because we're still a statistic, we're still a tick in the box, we're still somewhere a diversity inclusion strategy to equate and level the field. So when we're talking about creating workplaces that allow for women to seamlessly do this together, firstly there has to be acknowledgement of the mental load that women carry. Okay, so running a household, getting your career done, getting the food on the table, doing the maths, doing the planning, doing the financial planning, doing all of the logistics of this entire ecosystem that women run. Women are running empires and their careers, okay? Men have a very small role to play there. So firstly, all of this upskilling that women want to do to get back to their jobs, I think men have to be upskilled to level up to understand that women, when they commit to something, really give it their all. It's statistically proven. I'm not stating a stereotype. I'm statistically saying that when women commit to their careers and when women are so afraid of failing, the fear of failure in men does not exist. Women want to be perfect at everything that they do. Let's acknowledge the differences. Let's acknowledge feminine and masculine energies, and let's stop trying to create this halo effect around either or, right? Firstly, I think we as communities should be supportive of any choice that a woman makes, and that woman's choice should be her own. It's her own volition. Not coming from societal structures, not coming from parents, not coming from in-laws, but her own decision. How many of us have the ability to cut out those voices and say, I'm going to do this for myself? Because it's very, very hard. The judgments are so intense. So it's a fabric that needs to change across the spectrum, both lengthways and widthways. Yeah. And a lot of times the bias is in our own heads. You know, you're not even fighting something external. It's not even an external voice. So when we say, or when we choose the career paths that we choose, what can organizations do? Firstly, provide ecosystems for mothers. I went back to work on this was when it was still 3 months, right? 84th day of my daughter being born, I went back to work. I had to pump out, I was still breastfeeding, and I would only go twice a week. So for the flow to be kept, aloft, I had to pump, but I had only the washroom to pump. Back in the day, I'm talking about 9 years ago. Where are the creches? Where are the comfortable, creative environments where mothers feel safe to bring their children into work and leave them there? Today, the hybrid world provides so many opportunities in so many interesting ways. Can we look at collaborative spaces for mothers, women, support groups, communities? We are doing mental health ERGs, we're doing all of these. Can we create places and spaces that are safe for women to address their anger, their irritation, their annoyance, and everything that comes, instead of putting on this smile and being apologetic and bowing down and saying, unfortunately, this is what I need to do? Can we stand up in our space, be unapologetic about taking up this space and say, as mothers, this is what we want, this is what we need, and we will decide collectively to change the way things are. Because when you decide as a collective, the change happens a lot faster.
Yeah, I think some of the questions that you ask, men never ask them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where...
the fundamental question about, are you going to have a baby, are you planning kids? The uterus and the brain are not connected. What happens here and what happens here, dissociated. For the jobs that we do, we don't need to be asked whether our uterus is going to be busy or not. those questions have to be cut out. It really irks me that even today, people, are you planning a family? Are you planning? Ask the men these questions, no? Or don't ask them at all.
Yeah.
I keep saying flip the gender. When you flip the gender, if you don't ask that of a man, don't ask that of a woman or any other gender.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant then.
I've always thought that Rising should also have equal number of men and women at the participation, so that there's some learning as well.
How do you feel right now like this? This is how
Yeah.
we feel most often in most conferences.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I am intimidated, I tell you.
No, you're a champion.
I'm here to learn.
I just have one point to
Yeah.
add here. I think to your question, see, this cultural change is definitely going to take some time. Not some time, 130 years, right?
129, which is,
120.
Yeah. I just want to tell my own story and my sister, right? I come from a family, from a very supportive husband. Like my husband really, I always call my mother-in-law as a queen, right? Because she has raised 2 princes. That's how I call her, because they know how to respect me. Like my kids are down with flu, but then my husband said, you have committed for this, so you're supposed to go, I will take care. Same thing happened for my sister 3 weeks back, and her husband told her, you're not supposed to go because you're supposed to be here to take care of your daughter, right? So I think for women to really feel safe when they're carrying a child, first thing, you have to have lactation rooms, right? That's the first insecurity that pops up. I was not ready to go to work when I did not have a lactation room. Second thing, I think we definitely need a place where you can talk about some of the stress that you're going through, right? When you're totally sleepless for like 1 month with your child, you need someone to cry to. So you need to have those mental health doctors, someone who's taking care of you in your company. Only if you see all of this in your initial 5 years, you're then ready to go ahead for a birth and then continue with the organization. Otherwise, we will see dropouts.
Yeah.
I will drop out because I'm looking at this company as a place where they're going to get the most out of me and they're going to keep me insecure for the next 5 years with a child.
Yeah.
So if we have to put out in this forum, I would request any HR here or head here, lactation rooms definitely, and a place for people to vent out their mental health and talk about their pregnancy outburst and all those.
Yeah. So this was in terms of avoiding dropouts, right? Now let's talk about if there are dropouts, right? Vasudha, in terms of, and we were just discussing this, right? You had to drop out of your career, and then you said to me that, you know what, just take me back into the system, just take me back into, or let me restart my career. I'll do whatever they say. But in an ideal scenario, this should not be the case. And one of the major challenges that, or one of the most problematic things that is happening is in terms of the gender pay parity, right? Do you think that women who have to take a break and they have to come back, let's say like a woman takes a break after 3 years of work and she comes back after 2 years, and there's a man who took 5 years of work, he has been working, should the pay be equal? Because that is one of the major issues for gender pay parity that is today. So what's your opinion?
I think it's a pretty controversial topic. So thanks for the tough question. So I look for my
conference for controversy.
Absolutely. So I think speaking from personal experience, so after about a third break of 3 years, I joined Microsoft. Again, an amazing company for welcoming women back to work, right? So, and for me, I was excited about the role, and getting into that role to restart and upskill myself was the bigger motivation, right? In a job rather than the pay, right? So I didn't negotiate. I got the offer that they gave me because I didn't honestly, was not even the mindset to negotiate. Potentially Microsoft, when they made the offer, left some room for me to negotiate, which I didn't, right? So I joined, I had a great supportive manager. Within 6 months, I realized I probably was under-leveled, even when I was hired with like so many breaks. I very soon became a people manager within 9 months, and the first time it hit me was when the entire team reporting to me was making more than me. Right? That was the first realization when I first looked at, okay, I got the access and I'm looking at, okay, where is who and what do I work on their careers, and it's pretty much like most of them at a level that I was in or reported to me, so one level below, were actually making more than me, right? So that's when it hit me. So it's definitely a real issue. And I honestly feel it's an issue even for women who are not on a break. I think in general, in the industry, it's an issue. Right? And a lot of it has to come to, a lot of the mental conditioning that Shreya talked about so beautifully, right? I think it is about women don't feel comfortable showing aggression and negotiating, right? Or asking for more money or asking for when is my next promo. When I had people report to me, I would, sometimes, again, I don't want to stereotype everybody. There were men who was like, I'm giving a promo and is like, thank you, now how do I work towards my next, right? And I had women who would never even ask me what's next for them. They said, oh, the system will take care of it, right? So that's where the pay parity comes in. Now coming to the fairness of it, right? For me, that was unfair. Part of the accountability is with me to not have negotiated. And a second is, if you've taken a break, sometimes it's also, the pay parity should be at the level at which you enter the workforce, right? For me, I think I was under-leveled. Maybe that's a bigger problem. But if you're at a particular level in an organization, I would think you should look at pay parity at that level, not at the level you could have been if you did not take the 5-year break. The primary reason I say that is because that mindset just holds you back, because you go into a victim mindset and you're always focused on that. So for me, I shut that screen. I never remembered anybody's numbers. I was only focused on moving forward and to play catch up. And I would say today I more than caught up, right? So I think to me, the pay parity is probably at one level. Definitely we should have lots of policies within HR and organizations. Irrespective of you're asking for it, negotiating for it, you should look at pay parity. Should you account for the lost time? I'm not so sure about that, honestly, right? Because you did take a break, and the acceptance of that also is important for me.
I think I have, while you were talking, I gathered two things in your conversation, Vasudha. One, I think you were wanting to get back to the industry, and then you did mention that you took a level below whatever, right? I think that could be the biggest reason for you being underpaid for your competence and expertise. So that's what happens to many of us. When you are on a break, you're desperate to get back to the industry, and you want to just take up whatever comes your way. I think that should change. Like Shreya mentioned, you should just go back and demand for the position that you want to get in, and demand for the compensation that you require. So in our organization at Q2, we have several guidelines and policies that stops from getting women at don't take advantage of either woman or anybody, right? If they're coming from a lower pay, you are not just giving them whatever industry standard of 30-40% and you're getting them. Even if it means 200% hike on their current compensation, we would bring them at the midpoint or 100% comp ratio. So that's how we look at bringing parity across. We make sure that, especially we run these programs for women coming back from short breaks or long breaks, they are assessed based on the competencies into the role, and they're given exactly the same pay that we would give to anybody else who are coming into that level. So that's one thing that as women we also have to make sure that we are not compromising on the level, not compromising on the compensation that we're getting. Demand for what you deserve.
Yeah. And where do, Harini, I think you had, there's some kind of a solution to this where there's some...
I think the compensation ratio is one, but what we typically do in our organization is we make sure that everybody is at least paid at 90 to 95% of compensation ratio, because the ratio itself is so varied, right? Like a pay can range from 35 lakhs to 95 lakhs. It's absurd. So we make sure somewhere it's midway, like 90% comp ratio is being paid, irrespective of career breaks or irrespective of people joining us back. I think that could be one possible solution.
Yeah. Shreya, any thoughts on this?
No, I think pay parity should be looked at from a point of view of skills, competencies, and we should remove gender from it entirely. Because when you remove gender, what you're looking at is a very objective scale, right? Because then you're looking at not the person, not their back, nothing. You've dissociated from all of that and said, what is this person? What are they doing? What are they capable of doing? What is their growth scale like? And that's the easiest way. I think all performance appraisals should happen by consciously removing gender from the room, and it should have a policeman standing out there every time something comes up saying, are you saying that because it's a woman, or are you saying that because it's an LGBTQIA person, or a minority gender? And when you do that, is when you start bringing that parity or that leveling that balance, because let's be honest, women have not negotiated for years, right? So playing catch up then becomes our own prerogative, which then may not, because it's also personality dependent, right? Like she said, she didn't even realize till it hit her. So it's not even something on our mind, because we're thinking about what do we do, how do we scale, how do we perform. We're not really, I don't think the approach first is more often than not money, right? But how do you then elevate women to a space where that negotiation and that conversation becomes easy, where we're not judged, because women's relationship with money has a lot of guilt and shame associated to it.
That's a recurring theme, right? Like the apprehension, the apologetic behavior. And I think Harini, when we were speaking, I think she pointed out that despite policies within the company, there is a lot of fear to come back into the system. Even she said that, I had a fear. Probably she was more adventurous and decided to make mistakes and learn from it. But I want to learn from the audience probably. When you were coming back to work, what were some of the apprehensions that you kind of faced? What was that fear of getting back into the system or the corporate world? Anybody? I think you wanted.
Yes. I have mine. Sorry, before I answer that, can I go to the previous question?
Of course.
How can it be avoided? So what I feel is the belief system of our society is that women has more on the nurturing side, right? I think some of our policies, if there can be some kind of provision, because even I have taken a break in the past. What happens is, if there is a crisis in the family and something of an emotional well-being which cannot be shown on the paper for a sabbatical, we don't get an opportunity to take a sabbatical and still stay on the books. Either it's a maternity or something serious with your physical health. So if I want to take 2 months break and come back because of a crisis, or probably I want to take a break for my emotional well-being or do something and come back, we really don't have that option. So that's the time where we have to choose, do I need to continue working, or shall I take the risk of going and then coming back? I think that's where most of us have taken a decision to leave and come back. Probably something else needs us more at that time. Probably we can have some policies, provision to do that. That is first thing. And when we come back to work, at least for me, the challenging portion was that I definitely had more of patience, more of enthusiasm when I came back, but probably the confidence level was very low. And it took at least 1 month to get back to the par. When people talk about some of these acronyms and synonym, I have to Google and find out, okay, what is this? Because just not the technology, even the way people converse has changed from even 2 years break to now. A lot of things changes. So to understand and to catch up is where we find it difficult, and we really can't go back to somebody to find out those. So probably that is something I felt was challenging.
Yeah, I think
sorry, there was one more person who they wanted to say.
So I just wanted to take the negotiation topic forward. You said it's not a thing for the women, right? Negotiation is not a thing, and it is true. So how can we break that? Is there any experiences that you can share to break that notion of negotiation is not a thing for women?
It actually has a lot to do with our relationship with money, right? The way women associate with money, the way it's not directly linked to our identity. Let's be honest, men have the other side of the problem, which is they are expected to be the breadwinners. There's a certain expectation setting. So the patriarchal system does not support the people in it, irrespective of whether they are men or women, because then it's not about personal choice, personal capacity, it becomes about societal constructs. Now, negotiation skills, if we know we're not good at, one of the things that we individually can do is to take space to teach ourselves to negotiate better, to understand and be aware of where do we stand, what is the world around me, if there are people in the ecosystem around me who are doing the same thing that I'm doing, what is their stance on this, where are they? That's one. Second, I think it's time we started becoming very blatantly honest Not being shameful of why we take a break, not being worried about judgments of why we want to be paid a certain amount of money for the work that we do. I think there is amazing freedom in absolute honesty, and I think workplaces should make room for that honesty, because that's your first step towards true inclusion. Everything else that you're doing is a tick in the box. Can we have an honest workplace where we can say, this is our problem, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm vulnerable, I am angry, and have a space for us to be heard and seen for the struggles that we deal with, irrespective of whether we're men and women? Can we build that workplace?
Yeah, anything that can be done at the company level to kind of avoid this apprehension, this fear?
I know there are few companies, right, like Godrej has this Career 2.0 program, right? It started in 2016 actually, and they have a program which is more like an returnship, right? Once they come back from a career break, you're going to have like a 6 weeks where you're just trained on specific skill sets so that you boost your confidence and then you go back. But then to her point, I just want to highlight that not just breaks, right? I think we are judged everywhere, especially in your office if you're a manager, right? I was leading a team of 12 data scientists, all 12 men. Everybody judged me, which I did not even know until my appraisal cycle came to me. Like at the end of my appraisal cycle, people were like, nobody liked you. Like, okay, 1 year I have worked with them, then what is the point that nobody liked me? They obviously judge you. You cannot go to a meeting and say you're tired, because women are supposed to be cheerful, women are supposed to look nice all the time. You cannot go without your hair undressed. This is what is today. This is what is happening today also, even in our workplace, right? We are supposed to look good. And whenever there is a talk about growing to the next level, you always have to do a lot of networking, for which women do not have time today. You have to have a system where you make this networking conducive first, right? You cannot just go out every 2 weeks in a once and do networking. It's no more going to happen, right? So I think there are a lot of changes that have to come in for us to come out of the apprehension first, build our confidence, for which just stop judging me, right? I am tired, I am sick, I am supposed to be tired, I can be sleepless. I don't have negotiation skills. I don't negotiate with my manager. I haven't done till today, because my husband does that. He does the financial things for me, so I don't care. But then make sure the environment does it for me, right, as Shreya said. So all this has to happen.
Yeah. So since we have,
of course. I just wanted to give one quote to the audience here. We may encounter many defeats, but we should not get defeated in our life. Look at gather all your experience. Each of your experience will add confidence to you, like failures are the success for the stepping stones. Look at your failures, to move forward in life. Do not step back and don't have that victim feeling. You are great. And as Shreya mentioned, right, let's just be honest. Let's just be honest and then be the go-getter to achieve what you want in your life. Yeah. I think that's the spirit, that's the inner strength and the spirit that you have to build from, and have that confidence that you can do it. You can go and get it. You are the achiever. Please go get that.
Yeah, and I think, Vasudha, I'll come to you, and since we have very much limited time left, I want to kind of address the fundamental issue here, and which is essentially patriarchy, right? We keep talking about it. We have always seen in studies that unpaid care work is always done almost 9 to 10 times more by women than men. What do you think is the role of men, families, etc., in kind of enabling that this does not happen? And I think you had some point before as well, so if you can.
Yeah, just sorry, on the enabling women to come back to work, I just want to share with the audience that Providence India just launched Thrive, a returnship program for women. And I want to share that primarily because we've identified about 14 positions with the right support system in terms of easing the way back into work, right? But in the interest of time, I won't get into the details of it. Your answer, actually, the question is related even to the answer on negotiation, right? It's like, what do? Find a male ally, they're really good at it. Find a male ally, they're really, really good at it, right? And learn from them. So I honestly believe a lot of the topics we talk today, women already know, right? It's the men who need to know. right? And today, that is why almost every activity we do in Providence, India, with regards to anything around gender equity, we make sure men participate equally in the panel, in the discussion, the moderator, as well as the audience, because it's really the men who need the awareness as much as women. And Men as Change Agents is actually a recent program we launched, because even today, 77% of leadership positions where there are decision makers and influencers are men. And that sponsorship from men is the only way, otherwise we'll never get there even in 126 years in my mind, right? So men, this is not a women's issue, because men in their life have a wife, a sister, a mother, right? A daughter. So this is definitely...
I just want to say, men have women in the world around them. They should be respecting and choosing women because they have a mother, sister, daughter. But because it's a collective world, if men respect a woman only because they have a mother, sister, daughter, that's fundamentally flawed, because...
I'm not talking about the respecting the women. I'm saying that it is... Their life is also surrounded by women, so it is their responsibility to invest in the women around them. So to me, men allyship, I am hoping, is the theme, right, going forward into bringing gender equity. To your point earlier, you also said about all the support for women to ensure that they're able to play that nurturing role. I also want a role model, because it's a micro behavior is showing, saying all benefits for men to encourage them to take on that role. Right? Like paternity leave, right? Show them the way so that they also get to play that role and the expectation that there are benefits for you to do this so that your wife can actually invest in
I think allies
career.
are important, not necessarily because you have some relatives.
Allies are, because a lot of times we don't recognize this. Parenting is gender neutral, running a household is gender neutral, running your finances are gender neutral. But there's so much of associated gendered connotation to each of these that we often believe that it's the role or the job of one over the other. And to really level that field, it is to be able to bring them into it.
Let's change the popular adage,
These are the societal stereotypes that you may believe, right? It just has that. A woman has to be, you know.
Yeah, I think our time's up. Can we take questions, or are we?
Excuse me?
One or two questions we can take. Okay,
I don't have a question. I just, everyone was talking about negotiating and what does it take when you get back to work. I just wanted to share my story because I realized while having this discussion that I'm the odd one out. Yeah, so I worked for 12 years. I was the delivery manager when I had to take a break because I had a very difficult pregnancy. I almost died giving birth to my daughter, and then I decided, okay, if that happened, then the life that I've gotten back, I should give it to my daughter. So I took another 4 years to get back to work. I joined the workforce back peak COVID when everyone in India was dying around us because of the phase 2 of the COVID that was spreading around. I had 4 offers in my hand when I wanted to get back in. I myself told myself that, I am not going to go with the return to work route. I am going to go back based on what I know, what my skill set is, right? And instead of joining at a lower pay than what I was making, I joined at 50% hike at a position that was, I was a delivery manager when I had quit. I joined back as a senior delivery manager. And when I went back, I thought, as you were saying, allyship, right? So the ally that I had in all of this was my previous manager. He used to call me every year. Shweta, are you getting back this year? I was like, no, I'm not. I still need this year. When he called me the last time, when I actually joined back, I already had 3 offers in my hand. I was like, why did you not call me? I said, I wanted to see what I'm worth. I wanted to see, do I get back to work just because you are my ally, or am I worth it? And then he said, okay, so tell me what's your biggest offer, I'll match it. I said, no, I don't want you to match it, I want you to go beyond it. I told him.
Let's go.
So I gave him the figure and I said, and since I had been working in IBM for almost 9 years till that time, I knew what could or could not be done. I told him, this is what I have, do what you can, and if you get me a better offer in the next 5 days, I'll join. I did join there, and I did went back to the same place with my peers who had left. You know, when I was a delivery manager, they were also now senior delivery managers. There was a little bit of, bias against the fact that I came back at the same position as them, even after taking a 5-year break. But then it just took them a couple of months to realize, I was worth it. I was doing things better than them. And so all I just want to say is, you have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, I don't think anybody else in the world is ever going to.
One thing I wanted to bring up. We are 29% of women, right, in the workforce today. But by the time we get to the boardroom,
boardroom is only 2.5%.
Yeah. Can you tell me how much is that percent? So today I urge to all the women in the room, do not give up your careers. Do not give up. Keep your credibility, keep your power, keep your competence intact, and get to the boardroom. Make sure you all make it to the boardroom. All of you make it to the boardroom.
I think we are out of time.